Hi, everyone, and welcome to the All Things Tech podcast with Shabazz and myself, Mitko. Hi, Shabazz.
Hi, Mitko. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening. Uh, how we actually started the podcast was based on another podcast that I was a guest, uh, IoT Builders podcast by AWS. And Shabazz was not on the podcast, so we said afterwards, okay, we need actually more time to go into the details of the hard times, good times topic around the hard times 2023, 2024, everything that we see now in tech, and what we truly believe is going to be a new renaissance for technology in 2025 and onwards until 2030 and above. So maybe a short intro, Shabazz.
Yeah, I too found it really interesting what you were talking about because I listened obviously to the podcast and this would be a great opportunity to talk about things because like you, I mean, I've worked with technology for many years with a hardware and software background, working in the area of network products, solutions, and cloud and IoT.
Likewise, like Shabazz, we've been working together at Cisco for several decades. I think combined, maybe we're hitting like 3 decades or something, like 30 years combined. And also, just like him, networking, software, hardware, cloud, end-to-end solutions. We had quite an interesting path. We also have founded a startup, both of us in
Yeah,
the past. So a lot of history. But back to the topic: hard times, good times. What we see actually is now everyone is kind of stressing out around the macroeconomic situation, and we see layoffs all across the business. Hey, by the way, I was also laid off last week. Yeah, no hard feelings, Microsoft. Thank you for the 3.5 nice years, but it's definitely something that we see is happening all across the industry. And what's your view on the tech layoffs, Shabazz?
yeah. I'm obviously seeing that here too in the UK. And yeah, nothing's helping at the moment. Everything's going in the wrong direction, it seems like, with rising costs and obviously the unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
and even like supply chain problems with the post-pandemic, with technology, chip factory fires, and everything like that. None of it's been helping. So yeah, it's really tough time at the moment, but hopefully that will improve, obviously, over time.
Yes. Something I have seen is actually that people are actually moving from tech companies to non-tech companies. And I think that's
Yeah.
quite a positive sign for all the industrial companies building some specific industrial products or services, because now they can get a lot of tech talent joining them. Obviously, no, everyone is having different expectations about the work environment, the culture, what they want to do, even during the hard times. And
Mm.
everyone agrees that we need to go back to the core business and the core technologies, but still a little bit of experimentation is something that we all are looking. We are techies and geeks.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that, but that's a good place to look for jobs as well, even looking beyond the traditional IT firms to see if they also require um, IT type people.
Yes. And what I've seen, especially Internet of Things, changed a lot. Nowadays,
Mm.
hard times, everyone is looking to get it cheaper and faster to get their devices connected, being able to get the connectivity up and running, get some IoT data insights, start building solutions around it. But everyone's looking actually of going to a commodity-based Internet of Things. So cheaper,
Mm.
faster, if possible, connect the device for a couple of cents a month without any vendor lock-in. And this wholesaling of the IoT is something new. And I'm not sure whether it's just the right timing. So the maturity of the market, the maturity of the use cases, the maturity of the
Yeah.
solutions and everything, or it's just because everyone's saying, okay, now it's really hard times, we cannot pay. And we really need to drop the cost down from all the vendors, from all the service providers.
Yeah, actually, in fact, that's probably a good thing for now. Like, I think some parts of IoT is so mature now that there's so many like even small and large organizations fighting for bits of customer solutions. So that by them focusing on value add, same as the customers are focusing on value add over the next few years, that's no bad thing, rather than just companies tying themselves in, like fortifying themselves into like customer solutions with little benefit. So
Yes.
yeah, that's probably a good thing. But I think the other thing is, even if companies are not maybe investing as much now for the short term, IoT's matured so much now that like there's technologies within IoT that are still being used, even if the word IoT is not used sometimes,
Mhm.
because it's those technologies, best practices, and things like that, which are continued to be used.
That's true. And how about cybersecurity? Because nowadays, all the assets, everything is getting
Yeah.
connected. What's happening with cybersecurity in industrial and any kind of governmental use cases?
Yeah, good point. I mean, we've been talking about IoT, but yeah, cybersecurity, all sorts of areas of technology are obviously being impacted at the moment. And there was just one funny story I thought, but a bit depressing as well, that there was some malware incident at Royal Mail, and this has
Oh,
happened
no.
more than a month ago, and it's causing problems shipping stuff, and apparently it's to do with the software which they're using for printing export labels,
Oh, no.
and the group which has done the malware, they're demanding obviously like a ransom for it, and what's happening is Royal Mail is saying we don't actually have enough profits to pay you, and that's the excuse they're using. So it just makes you think, that not only did they have the poor infrastructure to deal with that, so the cybersecurity and network elements, for instance, to protect themselves. But that's the kind of honest level of answer that they're now giving, that they don't actually have enough profits. Uh,
That's the most
yeah,
British thing. We don't have enough profits to pay the ransomware.
yeah. So and I mean, to be honest, yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on inside Royal Mail, but it'd be interesting to hear more if anyone does know. But also, like what kind of security training should they have had in order to prevent these kind of things from happening? Because obviously, something's gone wrong there somewhere.
Yes. And also processes, I guess, because one thing is the training, and the next thing is obviously how do you build the right cybersecurity processes? Because if it's around printers for labels, that's definitely part of their industrial Internet of Things.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really good to get some recommendations from our listeners around good cybersecurity trainings that Royal Mail and others, also ourselves, we can actually take. Hopefully not too expensive, because hard times, we don't have enough money. Some of us are unemployed, others don't have enough profits.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the cybersecurity certifications are so expensive. I can imagine people who are out of a job, they're not going to be able to afford to pay for the certifications, but there
Yeah,
must be other training that must be available. It's just knowing which training is good or not. So yeah, it'd be
sure.
interesting to hear about that.
Yeah, sure.
Mm.
The same is for Internet of Things. Obviously, we hear a lot
Mm.
around IoT. IoT is becoming a commodity, etc. But how do you train yourself of everything which is happening?
Mm.
Uh, we see all these changes with generative AI now getting into any dimension, any kind of products. And I think we should get one of our next episodes actually speaking about Gen AI and all the changes, because it took by storm all the consumer market
Yeah.
with ChatGPT. Definitely everyone knows ChatGPT nowadays. But once it goes to the business and the enterprise side, what does it change? I mean, how all AI enabled products are actually going to make our life different, our work life different.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think probably it's kind of at that stage where lots of people are hearing about it. But do you remember when cloud computing first started, and
Yes.
lots of people were thinking, how, it's not going to be secure, and what's the difference between cloud computing and traditional client server? People kind of miss the wood for the trees. So I think it'd be good to definitely deep dive into AI and how it's useful for people. Like obviously, for example, like we're using AI in some ways, but we should we be using it more, and which are the kind of tools and systems which we should be using right now.
Yes. And where do you see actually these changes, in the hard times this and next year, or in the good times 2025 until 2030 and about and after?
Um, I think for AI, probably both, but it's kind of being restricted now, I think, because when we talk about AI and
Yes.
where AI is going to be found, okay, we see it in cloud computing, lots of the different services like ChatGPT, which are available. But there's also obviously the potential for AI in sensors and in the edge, But
Yes.
if there's less people working in that, less people doing the R&D for that, and also obviously the supply chain issues with the chip availability, all of that's I think going to slow that down, unfortunately.
That's an excellent point, actually, and that's
Yeah.
probably a good point in regards to the hard times. How do you enable inference on AI chips that you cannot get for the next 2 years? Because if you see all the lead times of
Right.
more advanced AI-enabled chips, like where you have AI core chips, or you have any kind of more smarter FPGAs or even GPUs, takes
Hmm.
ages to get them in. I mean, we're gonna go to the good times until actually the chip arrives. So will it change actually how fast generative AI can go in enterprise business?
Yeah, I mean, I hope not, but it does seem like that. You're right. Mm,
Interesting
yeah.
point. And what about the technology evolution? As we spoke, public cloud is actually now the first choice, and everyone was expecting that the public cloud is going to be significantly cheaper, both on capital expenses and operational expenses. Or
Mm,
there are all the variations that we see around customers, and now everyone is talking about we need to cut down our infrastructure as a service, our platform as a service, our software as a service spendings. So, how do you see actually this cloud consumption changing now in the hard times? I mean, are we going to continue with lift and shift and taking all these data centers across enterprises and factories shut down and move as we've been doing over the last kind of COVID years, like lift and shift
mm.
all these loads to the cloud, or is just going to stop and then
Yeah, good
something else?
question. I don't know, but I would hope that it's not going to stop because obviously there's huge. Well, we know that there's huge cost savings that
Yes.
can happen with that because although and that does require redevelopment of solutions because it's not just a matter of taking like a traditional data center application and then running it in the cloud. You can gain some benefits there, but for the real scaling benefits, then you have to start using the microservices and
Mm.
everything. So and that obviously can help businesses when there's the downtimes because they're obviously using less resources then.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope organisations still recognise that they do need those kind of people to help. Um, they need to invest in people to work on that, and that's how they're going to save some costs.
And it seems like, these microservices and Kubernetes is like Beetlejuice. You just mentioned 3 times microservices, and Kubernetes pops up because I think that they've won now, and we see it
Yeah,
everywhere. I mean, no matter if it's like application modernization, no matter if it's like traditional apps moving to something more flexible for development, afterwards deployment, and lifecycle management,
yeah.
we see Kubernetes everywhere. Like literally, I'm afraid to open my fridge because there is going to be a Kubernetes cluster popping up.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, obviously that's going to be a massively valuable skill. So yeah, I think training on that would be great for people if they're looking for ideas on what they should be working on while they're looking for a job.
Yes.
Sure.
I see
Yeah.
everywhere now. Everyone wants to modernize their traditional applications, break down all these 2.5, 3 years release cycles into more flexible way of actually splitting the job. Also to have
Yeah.
a better branding to attract developers, because obviously everyone wants to work on a modern tech stack, making their life easier. So
Yes. Yeah.
definitely people should know microservices and all the architectures that they can build between taking this cloud native development, taking it on the edge, taking it on data centers, taking it inside the industrial edge, inside SCADA networks, because that's going to be gold over the next hard period.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think probably another good thing is with Kubernetes and actually a lot of other technology as well, is a good mix of knowledge which is needed. So, for example, if there's software developers or if there's people, network engineers or working the networking area, they're all going to be relevant for deployments, of solutions. You need the networking, you need the
Yes.
the compute, you need the orchestration. So yeah, there's opportunities for everyone, I guess. Yeah.
Mhm. And that's a really good point. I mean, full understanding of the networking, of the hardware requirements, IOs. I mean, all these things
Yeah,
that people
yeah.
started forgetting around because they thought everything is cloud and you have this unlimited scale that obviously you have to pay for at a certain moment. So once you abstract yourself from that and you start designing these end-to-end services and modernizations of existing applications, there are much more things and much more universal view that
Yeah.
developers and operations people actually need to have.
And I didn't realize it myself personally when, for example, when we've obviously got a networking background as well,
Yes.
and back then I did not realize that that would be so important for the communication between services in cloud
Crazy,
computing.
yeah.
Obviously, yeah, yeah,
That's my
it's
same fault from last week. Yes.
yeah, it's so yeah, that was a real eye opener then. So
Yes.
yeah, it just goes to show that learning about other technologies, you then learn about how you can apply what you already know as well in that area. So that was a definite eye opener for me.
That's a good point, because when you speak with the cloud solutions architects and like these cloud native guys,
Yeah,
everything for them is one big local area network.
right, right.
So simply, the world is very different than that.
Yeah.
Yes. Good point. So, any last thoughts for these episodes? Because what we've got as a feedback from our friends, we want to keep the episodes at 20 minutes. So it's easy to listen. You can listen on your way to the grocery store, to pick up your kids, to work if you have returned to office. And I think we need a separated episode of remote working, work from home, and return to office. Very important topic nowadays. So, any last thoughts, Shabazz?
No, I just noticed. Yeah, we're almost on 20 minutes, so that's great. I'm already thinking about what Let's 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 move on to episode 2. I think as soon as we can. And yeah,
Yeah. So thanks, Shabazz. Thanks everyone listening. And definitely there's going to be episode 2 quite soon. Again, we're going to keep it under 20 minutes. So you have enough time. If you have any additional questions or feedback, I mean, you know how to
yes,
reach us. Like,
yeah, that would be great. Actually, yeah, the feedback and yeah, anything we can help with or you can help us with would be really, really helpful.
also if you want to be our guests, because obviously
Yeah,
we can go forever with Shabazz. Like we can we can record 50 episodes easily. But if you want to be a guest, two of us, I mean, just send us a message and we'll be very happy to have you on one of our next episodes.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
So
been
thanks
brilliant talking to
everyone.
you. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
always pleasure, Shabazz. And yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone. Yeah. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.